Jamie was an only child. His mom and dad weren't just loaded, they adored him like mad. We're talking a massive posh mansion in Surrey, house staff running about, a shiny Range Rover and Bentley parked outside, holidays in the south of Spain every summer. For Jamie, all that was just everyday life. But you know how life loves to mess about? One night, coming back from his mate Ethan's birthday bash, it all went horribly wrong. His dad was driving down a lonely country lane. Proper dark, nothing but the headlights cutting a path through the black. Out of nowhere, a girl appeared right in the middle of the road. No time to swerve, no chance to brake. The impact was brutal. The car veered and smashed into a tree. The girl died on the spot. And Jamie's mum and dad, gone in seconds. His whole world shattered overnight. At the funeral, Jamie stood there broken, a hollowed-out shell of a boy. That's when his Uncle Martin and Aunt Karen stepped in, all sugar-coated smiles and false sympathy. "Don't you worry, lad. You're not on your own. Come live with us. We'll never leave you." With no other choice, Jamie packed his life into boxes and moved up north to their modest, quiet house. But things went proper weird from the very first night. A sharp tap, tap, tap at his bedroom window jolted him awake. Heart hammering, he drew back the curtain and nearly passed out cold. A shadowy figure stood there, hair wild, features a blurred nightmare. Jamie screamed, a raw, terrified sound that brought Aunt Karen running. She rushed in, stroking his hair with a cloying sweetness. "Oh, love, you're overtired." It was just a bad dream. A bit of rest and a nice cuppa, you'll be right as rain. But as she turned to leave, Jamie caught it, a fleeting, cold smirk. It chilled him to the bone. The nights that followed were a descent into hell. Whispers slithered from the corners of the dark room. "Jamie, Jamie, you're all alone. They've all left you." It was his mum's voice, a perfect, painful echo. Tears soaked his pillow. "Mum," he whispered into the emptiness. The reply was a laugh. Harsh, cruel, and utterly foreign. Another night, a woman in white materialized at the foot of his bed. Twin trails of blood streamed from her eyes as she glided closer. Jamie fumbled for his lamp, the light flooding the room, and she was gone, vanished into nothing. He started to believe he was cracking up. He'd stare into the bathroom mirror, eyes sunken with exhaustion, muttering, "Get a grip. Are you going mad?" Then he discovered the truth. Creeping down for water late one night, he saw a sliver of light under the kitchen door. Peering through the crack, he saw Uncle Martin stuffing grotesque masks and a small wireless speaker into a duffel bag. Aunt Karen's whisper was unmistakable. "We'll set it up in his room tomorrow." A few more nights of this, and everyone will be convinced he's completely mental. The doctors will have no choice. Jamie's blood ran cold. The whispers, the apparition, the figure. All of it was a sick, calculated show. Their plan was transparent. Get him declared insane, locked away in some institution, and steal his entire inheritance. The next morning, Jamie marched to the breakfast table and slammed the gruesome mask down right between their cereal bowls. "Nice one, really clever. Thought you could drive me mad, did you?" he said, his voice steady and cold. "But I'm not the one who's lost it. Everyone will know your little game now." Uncle Martin's face went as pale as milk. Aunt Karen's spoon clattered into her teacup, splashing tea across the tablecloth. Without another word, Jamie went upstairs, packed his things, and walked out. He swore to live a life worthy of his parents' memory and to protect the fortune they left him, but never again with venomous snakes wearing the skin of family. As he stepped through the gate and into his new future, he muttered under his breath, "Family in it? What a proper joke." Emma had always known the noise of London, the rumble of buses, the glare of neon signs, the never-ending murmur of a million people. But after her father's sudden death, The city felt too loud and too expensive. Her mother decided they needed a clean start. "Whitby," she'd said, her voice trying to sound bright, "it's peaceful. By the sea. There's an old house going cheap. Maybe we'll find some peace there." The peace in Whitby was of a different kind. It was in the ancient, winding cobbled streets, the sharp smell of the North Sea, and the constant presence of the ruined abbey on the cliff, watching over the town. Their new house was quiet, but it was the wrong sort of quiet. It was the kind that made the back of your neck prickle, the silence that felt heavy, as if it were listening to you. On her first night, Emma lay in the unfamiliar bed, staring at the ceiling. The absence of city sounds was a noise in itself. Then she heard it, a soft, insistent tapping on her window pane. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she crept out of bed and slowly pulled the curtain aside. A girl stood on the other side of the glass, her hair wild, her pale face half lost in the mist. For a single frozen second, their eyes met. Then the figure was gone, dissolving into the dark. Emma's scream brought her mother running. "It was just a nightmare, love," she soothed, holding her close. "It's this old house. You'll get used to it." But Emma knew, with a cold certainty, that she had been wide awake. The nights that followed were worse. Whispers would weave through the room, slipping into her ears. "Emma, Emma, everyone's left you." The voice was a perfect imitation of her mother's, soft and loving, but twisted with a cruel edge. Tears would well in Emma's eyes. "Mom," she'd whisper back into the blackness, only to be answered by a low, mocking laugh. Then the girl started appearing inside the room. She would materialize at the foot of the bed, a figure in a white dress, with dark blood tracing lines down her cheeks. She would take slow, silent steps forward. Emma would fumble for the lamp, her fingers clumsy with terror, and the sudden light would reveal an empty room. She began to dread sleep, her exhaustion a thick fog she carried through each day. Finally, desperate and fearing for her sanity, she decided to search the one place she hadn't yet explored, the attic. The air was thick with dust and the smell of old wood. In a forgotten corner, tucked inside a rotting crate, she found a stack of diaries and yellowed newspaper clippings. The name on the diary's cover was Lucy Carter. The entries started normally, then turned dark. "Mum says I'm an embarrassment. She watches me all the time. She won't let me live my own life. I think she's trying to hurt me." Emma's hands trembled as she picked up a brittle news clipping. The headline read, "Whitby girl dies in tragic fall down the stairs. Ruled an accident." But it was the final entry in the diary that made the blood drain from Emma's face. The handwriting was shaky, weak. "Mum put something in my food. I feel weaker every day. If I don't survive this, it won't be an accident. It will be murder." The haunting wasn't about anger or a desire to harm. The spirit in the house was trapped by a secret, a truth that had been buried and forgotten. Lucy Carter hadn't fallen. She had been pushed, slowly and deliberately, by the one person who was supposed to protect her. The next day, Emma took the diary and the clippings to the village library. She showed them to the librarian, an elderly woman with kind, tired eyes. The woman called over another older local. They read the pages, their faces growing grim. "We always suspected something wasn't right about that story," the man muttered, shaking his head. But no one could ever prove a thing. That night, back in her room, Emma lit a single candle. She looked towards the window and spoke softly into the stillness. "Lucy," she said, "they know now. Everyone knows what happened to you. You're not forgotten." For a moment, in the dark reflection of the glass, she saw it, the faint image of a young girl's face offering a gentle, grateful smile. Then the image faded, leaving only the familiar, comforting sound of the distant sea. For the first time since they had moved in, the old Whitby house was just a house. The silence was no longer heavy. The shadows held no secrets. There was only a deep, lasting peace. The story was over because the truth, finally, had been heard.